Hi, awesome Algebra 1 students. My name is Ms. Versalis, and I'm going to teach you more examples of solving quadratic equations by factoring. So we went through 4 examples on Monday, and we're going to go through 3 more today that kind of kick it up to level 2. Our goal is still to solve, so we want to have x equals a number and x equals another number. So write this title down, and here is example 5. Again, we're going to do 3 more examples, just continuing with the 4 that we did on Monday. Example 5, solve x squared plus 6x plus 5 equals 0. Very similar to what we did on Monday. We do not have this in factored form yet, so we need to factor first, which means I look at the last number and figure out what 2 numbers multiply to 5 and also add up to 6. So I start with the numbers that multiply to 5. That would be 1 and 5. Yes, I could have -1 and -5. But I need the list of numbers, which is now complete, that multiply to 5 and add up to 6, which would be the first pairing of numbers. So in factored form, my first step here would be to write this as x plus 1 times x plus 5 and keep the equals 0. Now that we're in factored form, remember, we use the zero product property. So we set each product, each expression equal to 0 separately to find our 2 separate solutions. So the first would be x plus 1 equals 0. Subtract 1 from both sides, and we get x equals -1. Done with our first solution. Second equation, x plus 5 equals 0. To solve, we would subtract 5 from both sides, and we get x equals -5 as our second solution. So x equals -1, x equals -5 are our 2 solutions to this quadratic equation. And we found them by factoring and using the zero product property. Now let's kick it up a level. Example 6. The only difference between examples 5 and 6 in the way that it's set up is, oopsies, I'm not set equal to 0 just yet. So I can't use the zero product property for number 6 until I have this set equal to 0. So write down example 6, which is solve x squared minus 3x minus 5 equals 5. Your first step is going to have to be to set the equation equal to 0. And in order to make this equal to 0, I just subtract 5 from both sides. X squared minus 3x minus 10, because -5 minus 5 is -10, equals 0. Now I can do the exact same steps I just did. So I'm going to factor. Look at that last term and figure out what 2 numbers multiply to -10 and add up to -3. So make my list of numbers that multiply to -10. -1 and 10. +1 and -10. After the number 1 comes 2, so -2 times 5 multiplies to -10, or 2 times -5 multiplies to -10. 1, 2, 3 does not multiply into -10. 4, no. 5 we already have multiplying into -10. 6, nope, that doesn't multiply into -10. 7, no. 8, no. 9, nope. 10. So here's my list of numbers that multiplies to -10. Now, from this list, which pairing also adds up to -3? And that would be the last pairing, because 2 plus -5 is -3. So I will factor using those 2 numbers to x plus 2 and x minus 5 still equals 0. And now we use the same steps we've been using. Set each product, each expression equal to 0 for the zero product property. So we have x plus 2 equals to 0. And x minus 5 equals 0. X plus 2 equals 0. I'll subtract 2 from both sides. And x equals negative 2 is my first solution. Add 5 to both sides. And x equals 5 is my second and final solution. So here's my two solutions. X equals negative 2 and x equals 5 are my solutions to this original quadratic equation. And we found it by setting equal to 0, factoring, and using the zero product property. Last example. Example 7. Solve x squared equals 1. So this also is not equal to 0 yet. So my first step would be, again, to set equal to 0. And for this equation, to set this equal to 0, I have to subtract 1 from both sides. Not 5 like the previous one. This had a 1. So I subtract 1 from both sides and get x squared minus 1 equals 0. Set it equal to 0, done. Factor. So I need two numbers that multiply to negative 1 and add up to, the term's not there. Do you remember what it has to add up to? 0. So what two numbers multiply to negative 1? 1 and negative 1. And that is it. Do they also add up to 0? Yes, they do. So my factors are x plus 1, x minus 1. Still set equal to 0. So step 2 is done. We set it equal to 0. We factored. And now let's set each factor, each product equal to 0 to solve. We'll set x plus 1 equal to 0 and x minus 1 equals 0. Again, this is called the zero product property, which I'm shorting as ZPP. Subtract 1 from both sides and we get x equals negative 1. That's my first solution to the quadratic. And when I have x minus 1 equals 0, I just have to add 1 to both sides. X equals 1 is my second and final solution. So the additional step today is that you have to set these equal to 0 first, which will have different numbers to add and subtract before you factor and use the zero product property. Let us know if you have any questions. Otherwise, have a good one.